As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wai. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Rewind to SmackDown. 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 Rewind to SmackDown.
Ding dong. Hello. It is Rewind to SmackDown. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting, and welcome to Rewind-A-SmackDown, your Friday night tradition. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So much has happened since I last spoke with you this afternoon. It's now evening. It's now dark outside. We have a 2-hour wrestling show to discuss heading into the weekend. I'm doing great.
Has anything actually happened, or are you just talking about things that happen anyway?
A few hours have changed. Not a whole lot has transpired.
Good. Okay. Well,
did you have an eventful evening?
I wouldn't say too eventful. No, it was very typical. I actually did some reading.
What are you reading?
I'm reading this book. Funny you should ask. I'm reading this book called Flow. It's about I guess
the radio station?
No, not about the hip hop. Not about the hip hop radio station in Canada. It's actually about, I guess, flow state. You know, if you're familiar with the concept, it's like doing what you enjoy. And funny enough, next week I will be debuting not just a WandaVision podcast, as many people who listen to our news update will be aware, but also on Thursday it will be the debut episode of The Wellness Policy with me and Jordan Goodman. And one of the topics, actually the topic we'll be covering on this first episode, will be the concept of flow. So that'll be Thursday at 3:00.
So your podcast ventures outside of the wrestling bubble, so to speak, you have gone over the course of several years from glow to flow.
Glow to flow. That's it. That's beautiful. Very well done.
Yeah, I don't know what would be next. Hopefully not any kind of addiction to blow, but I think the flow state would be the best thing to be checking out. Is it a good book? Are you intrigued?
It's very intriguing. Yeah, it's taken me a lot longer than I really wanted to, but Jordan thankfully is a very fast reader, so hopefully we'll lean on him for a lot. But as I mentioned earlier, WandaVision review with me and WH Park, that'll be coming out on Sunday at some point. So,
are you using Mark Buckledy's suggestion for a show name?
I didn't see it. What did you suggest?
Dude, this was like, I almost stood up from my chair to give an applause to my computer screen. Wonderful.
We can, yeah.
Probably not. That's okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I could bear to say it every week.
Welcome to Wonderful.
Oh, God.
Well, I look forward to that. On Sunday, you're going to be joined by WH Park. Is he going to be a recurring co-host, or are you going to be getting different people on, or have you not decided yet?
You know, unless things turn out terribly and we just end up hating each other by the end of this probably half-hour podcast, I would say we'd probably hear from him again. Okay. Well, unless there are any plumbing issues, of course.
Well, that's you know what, if the maintenance is not up to snuff, then Wai, you're gonna have to I don't know, drain the, I don't know, I don't have any analogy for you. I look forward to listening to this show with the two of you.
For people who aren't aware, you experienced some WH has been going through some plumbing issues, as heard on Post Pro Res. Is that correct?
Well, we just had a cameo or two from Darth Vader on Post Pro Res. Nothing too. Hey, as soon as I called it out, it disappeared. So maybe that was it. Maybe it was just the plumbing could sense my curiosity and got embarrassed when I called it out, and then behaved the rest of the show for WH.
I think that's always the right call. If you hear something in the back end, you just have to call it out on these podcasts, whether it be a dog or plumbing, whatever.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty good noise-wise as I look around here. We've been pretty good with that kind of thing. We have a lot of shows that are up. Not going to go through all of them, but as I mentioned, Post Pro Res went up on Thursday night. We have a new British wrestling experience. JP Houlihan joined Benno, and explicit language, part of this podcast. Martin Bushby, threw down the gauntlet on Wai Ting, and you're going to have to hear it for yourself, but this was a side of Martin Bushby that, man, I have not seen before, but the man, he's coming out ready for that Royal Rumble.
I did not expect this myself, usually our British friends, I think our British friends are known for being very gentlemanly, very proper. This was a side that I was quite frankly taken aback by and obviously very insulted by. I've never said a bad thing about Martin Bushby in my life, yet he decided to come at me for this Up Next Rumble. Everybody's just like after the king, and I don't even know why. I didn't even win the last time, everybody. Yet the whole world is up against me. Andrew Thompson won't stop calling me out. Braden keeps talking shit about me. Now I got Bushby on my back as well. Well, it doesn't matter, everybody. You can talk all the shit that you want, okay? Thursday, January 28th, Up Next Rumble. I talk with my fists. That's all that needs to be said.
I mean, between recordings, he did refer to, hey, Pollock, did you hear BWE last night with Benno and Martin Bush League? It was some real trash talk coming out of Way. So, this
You're
guy,
my manager.
Let me just
my
say,
advocate.
This guy, he might be very calm on the outside. Believe me, folks, what rages inside is worse than any plumbing in WH Park's home. Okay, this guy, you want to get on his bad side? Guess what? You come for the king, you best not miss in this Royal Rumble.
Wonderful.
Who's in this thing? Who's in this thing so far? Who's officially announced?
We've got 30 people, okay? Well, I think 3 have been officially announced so far. It's Andrew Thompson at number 1, me at number 2, and I believe Jordan Goodman declared himself as an entrant last night.
Wow. Well, this is exciting. I look forward to this.
Are you going to make an appearance? Or is that a surprise?
I'm strictly a overseer of this. I gotta remain neutral. I think it'd be a conflict. So anyway, the British Wrestling Experience, it's out. We also did our news segment earlier today, so we won't go through all of the news. I guess the key stuff, Way, is that Alex Shelley is off of the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. Moose is taking his place in the 6-man, so it is now Rich Swann, Moose, and Chris Sabin against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. And maybe at the end of the show, we'll quickly go through the lineup for Hard to Kill on Saturday, which I would say is probably the most interest an Impact pay-per-view has had in a long time, and I'd include that Slammiversary last summer where all the new names were coming in. This one seems to be the one that we're going to see the true value of having Kenny Omega on their television. Are people going to be incentivized to buy a TNA Impact show?
Kenny is, one of the, if not the biggest star, at least in, hardcore wrestling circles right now. So his appearance on any sort of pay-per-view, especially on a rival, I guess in the past, a rival company, should be a really big deal. So, we shall see.
Also, just quickly, there was a report today from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, noting that internally, WWE is now listing WrestleMania for a date of Sunday, April 11th, which would be 2 weeks after the original date that had been announced a long time ago. I had asked about this, and I was told that's the date that is listed internally. Obviously, nothing is official till WWE announces it, but that appears to be the date that is listed internally. So it would be Sunday, April 11th. So those are some of the key news items from today. You can go download that show either as a podcast or check out youtube.com/postwrestling for our thoughts on that. So now we can dive into tonight's edition of SmackDown. Are you ready? Are you ready for a good time?
I'm ready. Yes.
Well, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, they were ready for yet another contract signing. Paul Heyman had the contract that would be the basis of tonight's show, noting it's the exact same verbiage, every single contract. It's boilerplate. They just put a new pay-per-view name on top of it. They hate this, and they note that a stipulation is needed to teach Adam Pearce about fear and respect, and Paul Heyman is tasked with taking this contract and having it signed for Roman Reigns, who tonight just pretty much played the puppeteer with pulling the strings of Paul Heyman, sending him to do all of his chores while this guy just chilled.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Usually you see, of course, Paul Heyman being the puppeteer. And in this relationship, it's certainly more Roman sitting back and letting Paul essentially kind of do his bidding for him, being the mastermind behind it all. But is that going to be the final result of this entire thing? It's a really good dynamic, I think.
Jey Uso came out. He calls this the Bloodline show, and he warns Adam Pearce and lists all the people that should be thanking Roman Reigns in the back. And Jey adds his name to the Rumble, and He's going to win the Royal Rumble, go to Raw. He's going to whip Drew McIntyre and whip Oldberg.
Nice.
Both of them.
You like that one? Is that good? Is that
Oldberg?
Good?
Is
that as good
not
as
the most original
wonderful
insult. But there we go. Jay and Roman Reigns controlling both brands. I don't know what the odds will be like for that outcome after WrestleMania.
I thought a pretty good promo from Jay. Like, a lot of personality. There are several plot points for us to grab onto. Introduced the Adam Pearce thing. Talked about him wanting to win the Rumble and going as far as to talk about what he would do, because logically, of course, he wouldn't challenge his own cousin. So, again, I guess reintroduces the idea that you can go to another show to compete for it. And also reminded us of Shinsuke Nakamura's gauntlet performance from last week.
Yeah, he went over all of Nakamura's wins from last week and threatens to send Nakamura out on a stretcher. And last week we discussed what would be the follow-up with Shinsuke Nakamura. Would this be a true babyface turn? And we didn't need the gauntlet to show us that. We learned immediately when he came out to his old theme song, the universal sign of a babyface turn, going back to your more familiar theme song. And that's what Shinsuke came out to, and official babyface. That's what his shirt should have read.
Yeah, although if he was a full babyface, I was actually expecting him not to have a shirt at all. He was still wearing like the top, but he did come up to the old babyface theme, no more rapping, and honestly, the only thing missing, of course, was having a live audience there to sing along to it.
We didn't have that. He said that Roman Reigns is the big dog, and that makes Jay his little puppy. And we got can-laughter.mp3 playing throughout the Thunderdome. I think laughter from the Thunderdome audience is the most cringe sound effect that they have. It beats like Fight Forever or any other chant that they have canned. Yeah. The laughter, the Triple H one from the video game. But then he just attacks Jay, and we went right into the match. So, I mean, we could talk about this afterwards or now, but Nakamura, like, certainly a turn, but also seems kind of distanced from Reigns. That is not the direction they're going.
At least not yet. He's, definitely still a notch below all that. But I think it's something they could definitely do in the future.
They had a pretty decent match here. Before the first commercial break, Cesaro came out to his theme song, and they were asking him why he wasn't there to help Nakamura, his partner last week. He says they note that he has a match with Daniel Bryan later, and he was here for Nakamura last week. But have you seen how big Tropicana Field is? It's so big that by the time I got out here, the show had ended.
It's a pretty funny explanation.
Cesaro has also entered the Royal Rumble. Nakamura hit the sliding German, then a knee off the turnbuckle. He sets up for the Kinshasa, but is met with the super kick. Uso splash lands on the knees, and then after Uso tries to use the rope for leverage, he gets caught by Charles Robinson, who won't count 3, and Nakamura rolls him over, hits the Kinshasa, and wins in 12 minutes and 23 seconds. Cesaro came in and gave Shinsuke a big hug.
I thought overall it was good follow-up for Nakamura's booking here. Initially, I was definitely questioning the ref distraction victory rather than a strong, clean win, for a guy's first babyface victory. But they kind of needed to do the thing with Charles Robinson and Jey Uso to further that story later on in this episode, so I do understand.
No one wins without distractions. Or
on this episode, God, no.
Nefarious means. Like, that's just a given. That's how you win matches.
But on this show, in particular, it was pretty ridiculous. But the Cesaro angle is really interesting. I mean, it's definitely leaning towards Cesaro turning on Nakamura.
They're doing Drew and Sheamus.
Yes. But I think, though, with a relationship that you've actually seen on TV, and Cesaro is, again, like kind of that best friend who's almost a little too suspicious, too friendly. But it seems like it's a slow burn, which I think is definitely going to be better for them both.
I think this is as good a time as any to mention that next week on Rewind-A-Way, our man Neil has selected the Stone Cold podcast with Vince McMahon from 2014. And we will be talking a lot about Cesaro. It's awesome.
Is this the brass ring comment?
This is the brass ring comment, and what Cesaro is missing.
Oh God, wow.
From Vince McMahon 6 years ago. So anyway, that's coming out Tuesday. Adam Pearce is with Sonya Deville, who had a pretty minor role on this show. This was about it. She does note, like almost under her breath, that she has watched Pearce's old stuff on YouTube and thinks he might have a chance. She thinks he might have a chance against Roman Reigns.
This was significant to me, I thought, because like, in the weeks like leading up to this, it was like, okay, it's Adam Pearce. He's sort of like, he's no better than like J&J Security. He's just like a kind of like a old guy who is put into a match where he's completely out of his league. But they actually had Sonya Deville here, who I would consider at this point like an expert opinion from an active wrestler, giving him a serious chance after doing her research on YouTube. So it was like, it felt like they were like legitimately pushing Pearce as an actual contender at this point.
I think that they've done this to such a degree. You have to do this match on television, or like, I think there is enough interest now in this. And honestly, like Adam Pearce, we all talk about like how overly done the authority figure role is. I mean, maybe it's a little much having him on both shows, but I think Adam Pearce is really good in this role. Like he's the ex-wrestler that is not so old that you can't take him seriously for an angle like this. And I think you can I think you have to do the match at some point. I don't know if you could get the February pay-per-view, like that might be too much, but on TV, I think that would be like a decent main event to build to for Roman Reigns and Adam Pearce to set up Reigns going into Mania.
I thought after, like during this episode, I thought they were going to go all the way with it at the Rumble, but certainly on TV, I think there'd be some interest. How you book it though, I think is still an interesting question. Do you have it be a complete blowout if it's Roman Reigns, or do you actually have Adam Pearce be competitive? Like Sonya's line here suggests that they would actually book Pearce to be actually competitive.
So Heyman compliments Deville's perfume and says that the contract states it will be for the Universal title and be a no DQ match. And Pearce signs it, noting how ridiculous this is and understands their intent to injure him. And this is a very little thing, but we talk so much about WWE missing the mark on so many baby faces. And a lot of times it's little stuff like this. We know that there is a plot by the heels, and the babyface knows that. The babyface is not dumber than you, the viewer. He is one step ahead, and he understands what they're trying to do. And I think that goes a long way when it comes to babyfaces that you have confidence in, that you know they are smart people.
That's usually like not the norm. Like this was not the norm, Like, okay, so at this point, if you're just watching the show, you don't really know how this whole thing ends. You're looking at Adam Pearce and thinking, how is he so confident to sign this contract that is clearly not in his favor? Like, what is his logic in being so agreeable here? You almost think that he either has something up his sleeve, or they just didn't think enough to write logic into this character, which I think is a very valid, skepticism for a WWE show. Thankfully, it was not the case tonight.
Jay is yelling at Charles Robinson backstage. He needs to do his job better. And he brings up that Robinson's daughter recently got married and you could get fired. And Robinson is scared about this. So I would imagine that this is going somewhere. Wasn't done for no reason, but the idea of, Reigns and Jay having all this power by association with Reigns and doing this is very much out of that WCW angle where they fired Randy Anderson with his kids there. And that's kind of what they're threatening here. That I guess Charles Robinson, he's just paid for his daughter's wedding. Maybe this is not a good time for him to be losing work during a pandemic.
He can go through Adam Pearce and then Charles Robinson and then maybe like, I don't know, Mark Carrano next.
The whole hierarchy, yeah. Braxton interviewed the Street Profits. They have been called many things. Playboys, honorary Vikings, two dudes dying to be drawn up as Simpsons characters, but what they are not are scared. They won the tag titles on March the 2nd. They held them for 312 days. And calls Rude and Ziggler various names, but they're going to run it back. We are going to get a rematch. for the tag titles.
I think we expected at least one rematch. You know, the question is how many rematches are we going to continue to get in this feud? I
think the longevity of their title reign is totally, like, it meant nothing. You know what I mean? I had no concept that it was this long. Maybe it's because they had to switch the titles and play hot potato with them, with the Raw tag titles. But yeah, nonetheless, go in the rematch direction.
I think these promos from the Street Profits have become so lame. Like, the content is just so bad. You know, you can call us honorary Vikings. You can call us people desperate to be drawn as Simpsons characters. And then there's a whole joke about ED. Like, they had a list of nicknames for Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, and one of them was ED. Entertainment Dysfunction. Like, what? Like, what? Like, is it like, I don't know anybody who would find this funny. Like, no matter what age you are, what demographic you might be, what your level of intelligence might be, it's like, it's almost as if they're trying to intentionally be corny.
Reigns was in the office, mentoring Apollo Crews, instructing him that it's all about control. And the signed contract is passed over to him. He tells Crews to stay here and learn. Reigns doesn't want a no DQ match now. He wants a last man standing match. Heyman says Pearce will not go for that. And Reigns says, well, you will get him to sign it in the ring tonight. And Paul, I'll consider this handled. And Heyman says, yes, sir. And he walks off with the contract.
You know, putting Apollo with Reigns, it's not exactly bloodline, but I like the addition. It's a good spotlight for Apollo. If he is going to be sort of like a part of this stable, he's like a good complement to Jay. It should be good. It should help unlock some intensity from Apollo.
Yes. I liked as well that they showed the clip from Talking Smack last week and like playing stuff off of that. Like there's payoffs to those segments on Talking Smack. My favorite part of the week, the Raw promo. On Monday, Randy Orton will address Alexa Bliss's twisted attack. Nothing about this man's update that he can see, that he's alive. We're just fast forwarding. He will address this twisted attack. And then, whether it be before or after the explanation of the twisted attack, Alexa Bliss will face Asuka.
Didn't they report that he has like minor burns or something?
Oh, they did put out the medical update. Yes. So he's alive.
He's got minor burns to his face.
Minor burns to your face.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this was all caught on camera. I hope he announces that he's filing charges.
Oh, he did burn another guy. I think anything goes in that ring.
Is that how the law works?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Natalya versus Liv Morgan. Billie Kay came out with the Riot Squad and is what would be the description of what
she's like doing? A little sister trying to like tag along with her cooler older sisters. So she comes out and like she's doing the air guitar. Like I thought she was hilarious. Like
she's very funny.
She is like one of the better, maybe one of the best like physical comedians in this company. And her coming out here with those facial expressions, doing the air guitar, like being asked to be dragged up to the apron as the other two are doing their combination entrance. I thought she was really funny here.
She got on commentary and said that she has been practicing mosh pishing.
Mosh pishing. Yeah.
Natalya's beating down Liv Morgan. Put her up for the Sammartino style backbreaker, and then Morgan fires back. It was going fine here. There was a sharpshooter that got countered with a cradle by Liv and then hit the double knees. Billy's cheering her on, but then comes over to the side where Tamina is in Natalya's corner, and Tamina gets upset that Billie Kay is on her side of the ring and chases Billy, who runs into the ring, and the distraction to Liv of Billie Kay running through the ring leads to Natalya rolling her up in 436. Natalya and Tamina laugh at them. Just a goofy finish at the end.
I guess, they're trying to tell a story of like Billie Kay sort of being the idiot who's now causing the Riot Squad to lose. I think Billie Kay is really funny, and I think this story will ultimately like let her just entertain and perform, and it'll play to our strengths, hopefully. But it shouldn't come at the expense of good wrestling. And I thought that the interference at the end of this match was way too much. It was way too overbearing. You didn't really get a good quality. It didn't feel complete, you know. And I think it serves to turn people off more than not. You know, especially when you're talking about a team like the Riot Squad, who at this point I think are more leaning towards the direction of being impressive in-ring performers, which is what they've established with their ring. Like at this point, I want to see them wrestle. I don't really want to see them do this kind of shitty comedy stuff. They haven't really established themselves as a team yet, and you're already injecting all this comedy into it. I like Billy Kay. I like the entrance, but I thought how overly campy all the interference was too much.
Rey Mysterio came out next for his match with King Corbin, and he's joined by Dominik. And then Christmas came 3 weeks late, because then I saw the ultimate gift. Dominik did not stand ringside. No, he went and took a seat next to Corey Graves and Michael Cole. Dominik Mysterio made his commentary debut. Michael Cole just played Grandpa Mike, saying, "I remember when you were out here as a child," and Dominik just shoots back, "Yeah, Cole, you're getting old." Burn. They said, "Dominik, what are your plans for this year?" "You know, I just want to capture the tag titles with Dad." And then Corbin starts yelling at Dominik from the ring. And Mr. Reaction, "What does Corbin think he's doing?" Ray gets thrown to the floor, and then he has his head taken off with a clothesline. All of this happens in front of Dominik. So Corbin goes up and shoves Dominik, but Dominik, the incredible Dom, has to harness all of his anger, because if he does anything, he'll get Dad disqualified. Graves is goading him on. "Come on, this is the WWE. You got to stand up for yourself." "No, I can't." There's a 619 setup, but Corbin just gets up, deep six. He gets back into Dominik's face, nails him with a shot. Ray hits a 619 through the ropes, and now Dominik has had enough. He storms into the ring. Dad stops him, but in doing so, Dad turns into the end of days, and son watches Dad take the fall in 5 minutes. So what does he think he's doing?
This should be every week.
Dude,
Dominik should
put
host
him on commentary every week.
He should host 205 Live or something, I think. So this is 3 matches in a row, 3 distraction finishes in a row.
It was ridiculous tonight. It was just ridiculous.
Too much. Like it's their style, you know, at this point. It's like they feel the need to constantly have these stars on their show, yet they can't commit to having any single person actually look weak. So it's just a kind of this endless like series of overbooked distraction finishes that's just lazy and very predictable. The match I thought was fine, but I was just really turned off by the lazy booking here at the end.
Yeah, Ray has very much been hurt by this move to SmackDown. And it's not just moving to SmackDown. It's been just has no longer been a priority. Like, this was a guy that had been a real focused upon performer in 2019. Say what you will about the Rollins feud, but that was a very big program last year. And he feels like another guy presently.
He's not the focus anymore. I mean, it's clearly Dominik who is the star that they're actually trying to push here. So
I think both have greatly cooled off. I think that this Corbin feud, it's just gone nowhere. It just feels like a transitional feud that I don't even know what they're feuding over. Like, this just kind of started.
I mean, Corbin's just an asshole, I suppose, right? Like, to me, the real money program is going to be these two, Dominik and Ray versus Roman. Like, the whole family theme, I think, is already really strong. It's a very natural program, so we'll see if they ever get to it.
Backstage, Dominik's telling Dad, "You've been fighting giants like Corbin your entire career, and now you back down?" Ray says, "You need a plan. This man's been a United States champion, a Money in the Bank winner, a King of the Ring. He's a former Golden Gloves boxer." And just like that, a light bulb goes up over Ray's head. I know the guy to talk to about dealing with Corbin. Maybe
I
Mike
like
Tyson's coming.
Well, I like how he emphasized Golden Gloves boxer above like all the other.
All this other bullshit that means nothing.
Because even Ray knows like that's worth way more than the King of the Ring, you know. But who do you think? Who's he gonna get?
I don't know. He needs a striker. Needs a striker to deal with the Golden Gloves boxer. They were hitting that up on the commentary too. Like that seems to be the direction they're going with Corbin, is playing up the boxing angle. So
no, who's a boxer in the WWE in the system?
A boxer in the WWE system.
Or a striker. They got to get.
It's not going to be Matt.
Steve Blackman. Brian in the chat room is suggesting, of course. I don't know how we didn't think about this dude. He is actually still an employee. Aleister Black. Is it possible?
Sure. His buddy that he fell off the roof with.
That's right. Yes, his buddy that he lost an eye for. The eyebrows.
Yeah, I sure. It's a way to get him back for this. Hey, Aleister, we're bringing you back for Corbin. Great. Then it was on. Any other thoughts?
Segment with Pearce and Heyman that I think we glossed over. You just handed him the contract back, and Pearce just again agreed to basically sign, but in ring.
I totally missed this. So there we go. He's got the contract now in his hands. Then it was on to the debut of the new interview segment, Ding Dong Hello, with Bayley, who came through this makeshift door that was set up in the ring. This instantly took me back to the debut of the electric chair. And she notes that this show is already bigger than WandaVision. Which, I mean, you're reviewing it, so it's already got that prestige attached to it. Her guest is Bianca Belair. Bianca comes out, and Bianca has to ring the goddamn doorbell and come through this ridiculous door. And then sits in Bayley's seat. They plug her new Chronicle that's coming out next weekend, and then they argue over her EST nickname and if it's disrespectful to other women that paved the way. Bayley concludes that she beat Bianca a few weeks ago, therefore she would be the best. This all comes down to Bayley throwing out the challenge of the two having an obstacle course to prove the best athlete next week. Bianca Belair accepts, and I am mildly convinced that somebody listened to our Worst Of show and remembered the Street Profits Viking Raiders success and thought, oh yeah, let's top it. Hold my beer. Here comes this. Not electric chair levels, but I thought this segment was pretty bad.
Well, I'll definitely reserve my judgment for the actual obstacle course itself, but I greatly enjoyed this segment. I thought this was a total win. I love the name for the segment. I mean, it's Bayley's catchphrase. I love the door. I love Bayley's Harry Potter glasses. I think a Piper's Pit type of segment is like the perfect vehicle for this Bayley character at the moment. It's the thing that she's developed like a really strong personality, and I think to take it to the next level, she's strong enough now to be able to host one of these segments. And I hate to be a lazy critic and compare like two talking segments featuring female performers, but I'm going to. This was so much better than the waiting room on Wednesday, and they've had months to develop the waiting room. You know, these characters, of course, are very similar. The comparisons aren't very new, but I thought this was far better produced. By the end, everything was laid out simply and clearly. You allowed both participants' personalities to shine. You didn't try to cram too much in there with too many different feuds, and I thought Bayley was hilarious.
Yeah, I had a totally different reaction to this one. I think Britt Baker is a significantly better host. I just think that this was very much the kind of humor that I just don't get into at all. It's where the babyface feels less popular than before. I just think that Bianca has been, it's like she came in at a 10 and she has progressively gotten lower and lower in this division. And I'll reserve judgment till this obstacle course plays out.
I disagree since she's gone to SmackDown. I mean, you know, on Raw, she never really had that much consistent focus. But on SmackDown, I think they've slowly built her up. And I think ultimately she's going to get the win over Bayley in this feud. And this was just a way to heat it up.
The saving grace next week is if they allow Bianca to do a lot of impressive athletic stuff, that like she will shine that way. So I hope it's done well next week and is not just done for like laughs and such.
Well, for one thing, I hope it's not really shot outside. I hope they do it in the arena so you can actually see it. I don't want to hear
it's going to be like the first NXT season.
Exactly. Yeah, taking it back. Like, I don't want to see a cinematic style like thing where they'll over edit it with like unfunny comedy. Like this, to me, hopefully will just be a straight up, showcase for Bianca Belair.
Earlier in the day, Bryan was training hips with Otis and Gable as he prepares for the Rumble. He's asked about his loss to Nakamura, but there's no shame in losing to him. He's a former Rumble winner. And Cesaro interrupts, saying, I am Nakamura's friend, not you, and he only shook your hand because he felt pity on you, and makes fun of their hip exercises, comparing it to the Macarena, which probably led to most people Googling what the Macarena was, if you want to go back 25 years.
It is what it's based on. Like they did one time like come out and do basically a Macarena pose.
I mean, he is a dad, so I mean, at his age, I mean, this is cutting edge.
It's a joke for 30 and 40-year-olds. Yeah.
Bryan and Cesaro, the highlight of the show for me. They had a great match. Bryan targeted the arm early on, and then there was a monkey flip that sent Cesaro into the ropes and affecting his neck as he goes to the floor and took a high cross. And then as he delivered kicks to Cesaro, missed and hit the post, and therefore Cesaro went after the leg. At some point here, Cesaro cut his head, so there was blood.
It looked like it might have been the monkey flip where he might have like made contact with Bryan's head. Like it was that bit of awkwardness that might have resulted in this.
Bryan
clutching his head after the fall.
Yeah, this was like the back of the head, which sucks. The other night, I smashed my head into a ceiling down here. Dude, it hurts like hell. I was bleeding. It was brutal.
You probably look just like Cesaro with your bald head.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like a body double for Antonio Cesaro. So Bryan busted out La Mystica here to set up the yes lock while selling the leg. Cesaro rotates out. He's stomping on the leg. Cesaro swing into the sharpshooter, transitions to a crossface. That's reversed to the yes lock. He gets out with the rope break. And then Cesaro, there were a lot of impressive things in this match. This was one of them. Cesaro blocked a top rope Hurricane Rana, and instead of just dropping him, he hit this twisting vertical suplex that looked so great. And then a pop-up uppercut is countered into a backslide by Bryan. He sets up for the running knee, but this time hits the pop-up uppercut and the neutralizer, and Cesaro pins Bryan as they appear to be telling this story that Bryan is not ready for the Rumble. And we got 2 weeks to go, so he better really make the turnaround here. That said, great match. I enjoyed this. Was hands down the best thing on the show for me.
Very good match. The vets always proving that they could still deliver some really cool spots in it, taking advantage of of course Cesaro's incredible athleticism. I guess it's weird. Like every loss that they give to Bryan makes me think he's going to win the Rumble that much more. It just feels like that's the way they book. So,
but what about momentum?
That usually leads to people losing, I feel.
Do you think it's an easier story to do Bryan running the table, winning the Rumble, or do you think that they could hold off and do the Elimination Chamber? You split SmackDown that way.
Yeah, I could see Bryan making it to like the final 2, final 3, and then having a heel eliminate him, tell that heartbreak story so that he just ultimately climbs back and wins. They might change their mind like the day of.
All of this could change. I guess you could also say, like, you had the Nakamura loss last week, Cesaro here. Like, you could do a story. I'm not a fan of this idea as I play it out in my head, but like you have Elimination Chamber, and it would be Bryan having to beat all these people that have beaten him.
That's a fine story to tell, sure, but I do feel like, just judging by this type of booking, I do feel like Bryan has to be the leading candidate to get Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, whether it be by the Rumble or the Chamber.
Kayla Braxton is with Carmella and says Banks can't touch her with her raw talent, and she's hiding. Apparently not, because instantly Banks showed up and attacked Carmella with Reginald standing in between them. And Sasha is willing to grant Carmella her title match as long as she can face Reginald first.
Yeah, so teasing intergender with Sasha and Reginald, and
but not announcing it. I thought they were going to announce this for next week, but that was not the case.
Do you think they actually do it? And by do it, I don't think they'll do a full-on match, but, you know, the WWE version of intergender, where it's likely no contact from the man, and it's, you know, Sasha basically attacking it, or like...
I think it'll be Sasha on offense and Reginald doing all of his Cirque du Soleil stuff.
Right. Yeah, that could be impressive. That could be fun.
They showed Apollo Crews getting the speech from Paul Heyman on Talking Smack last week, telling him he is not a loser and to come back with a title like a man. So Crews took on Sami Zayn, who was accompanied with his documentary film crew. They just casually pan over to Big E, who is ringside on a couch wearing his Ghostbusters sweater, eating fruit.
Don't know where they got that couch from. But yeah, this is his commentary look.
Yes, man, in the bite your tongue comment of the night, Graves asked Big E about whether he believes in conspiracy theories, and Big E says, I don't want to get started on conspiracy theories. It's a really weird time.
That it is, yeah. It almost makes me wonder if they'll like turn the...
ease off Zayn, on some of this?
Or no, like lean the Zayn character more into it. Like he turns from the sort of like, I don't know, leftist, like, I don't even know what conspiracy theories he would think of, but like turning him into like a QAnon. No, probably not. It's too sensitive right now.
Crews does a moonsault off the desk, gets crotched on top, and Graves is talking about how unfair it was how Big E won the title, but doing it in a polite way. Big German suplex from Crews. The standing moonsault lands on the knees. He gets cradled for a 2 count, and then Zayn tries to hook the tights, but the referee catches him. Then the haluva kick is avoided. Crews rolls him up and hooks his pants. The referee's on the other side and counts 3. So Crews wins in 3:17. Zayn has a freak out, and then Crews grabs the IC title, hands it back to Big E, who says, this will never be yours. And they go back and forth on the floor.
You know, this too was not a clean finish, but I thought it was a good finish on this show. First, because it at least didn't involve distractions. But secondly, you have to establish Crews as a new heel character. So you had him out heel the other heel here. You set up Crews and Big E for next week, and it plays into the Sammy conspiracy theorist character, the way he lost here. So I thought it was like well done.
Yeah, I mean, I like this direction they're going with Apollo Crews. He's going with the guy who's been relegated to the catering crew that's looking for help for the guy who puts the food on the table.
Oh, okay. There you go. It's all about food.
That's what everything revolves around. So next week's show will have Big E and Apollo Crews for the IC title and the obstacle course challenge between Bianca Belair and Bayley.
Yes.
Final segment of the night, Reigns comes out with Heyman and Jay, followed by Adam Pearce. Reigns comes in. He wants to sit in the chair Adam Pearce is sitting in. He is just like the asshole teenager that knows he can get his way, and the parents will just don't want to upset the spoiled child.
Man, I don't know any kid who'd like take their dad's seat head of the table. Who would allow that?
Well, that's what Roman did here. Pearce gave up the seat. Pearce signs the contract. Reigns is smiling. Heyman notes how he's being passive-aggressive. So Reigns signs it. Pearce says, I've waited all night for you to do that. And then he walks up the ramp and he starts limping. And unfortunately, so was like the audio signal on this microphone. It was limping to a death as this segment concluded. Adam Pearce is trying to explain with this fleeting microphone that it's an old knee injury that's occurring. And like every contract, it contains the language card subject to change. And therefore, this knee injury will lead to him needing to find a suitable replacement for the Royal Rumble. And he has someone in mind. And with that, Kevin Owens enters, signs the contract. I don't know if this is quite how contracts work, but that's how this ended, and Roman is pissed. I think Adam Pearce should have been pissed because this microphone, was this a mess for you on your side?
Yeah, it was for everybody.
Okay,
and
I wanted to make sure this was not somehow isolated to me. This was like all the key lines. It was like you could barely make out what it was saying. It was just like a shitty like phone connection.
You know, like I thought they did such a great job setting up this entire thing throughout the entire show. You like go on this kind of 2-hour marathon and you're at the finish line and then your mic fucks up. And how often do mics fuck up in the WWE? Like,
dude, this never happens.
Never ever happens. And for it to happen in such a crucial time in the show, I really felt bad for the people there. I felt bad for the truck that I'm sure was panicking. The audio dude was probably having, he's probably worried about his job right now. Poor guy. Like, who didn't change the batteries, or like who turned on the microwave or something? Like, that stress is just, I felt for them. But the story was clear. They'll clean it up in the video packages.
Oh, this will look like the most pristine video package when
if they clean up the Goldberg thing with Drew the other day, like this won't be an issue. Overall, like, I thought it was a really well told story, very satisfying twist at the end, save of course for the mic issues. But like, man, Adam Pearce is the first guy to outsmart Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. Is he not?
Yes.
That's
they
pretty
put the authority figure like above the top heel of like outwitting him here. And I think that ultimately you do need to do this match. And I like this direction. Like, honestly, like the last man standing match, I think like Reigns and Pearce, to me at the Rumble, like that, especially when you're doing Drew and Goldberg, like I could not fathom them doing both of those matches. So I expected this to switch to Owens, which is the bigger program. But Pearce, I think whether you had the intention or not, I think you definitely have a television main event out of this.
I still don't think you're going to get much more of a match than, Roman Reigns completely like destroying Adam Pearce. Like, I don't see them pushing Adam Pearce as a legitimate contender. I just don't see the value in that.
Maybe not, but I mean, I think you still will do the match. And maybe it's, Reigns, it's just his big lead up, whether it's leading up to the Rumble or coming out of it. And maybe that's like writing off Pearce.
Perhaps, yeah. But it'll be Reigns versus Owens. I mean, I think, this story definitely was, had enough steam to build to another pay-per-view match. They have 2 weeks of Kevin Owens helping to sell the story now. And it's a suitable main event for a Rumble that really will be held together by the Rumble matches themselves anyway. So I think it was a good addition of SmackDown. Moved along really well. Fresh directions for several of the characters and stories. Finishes I thought were pretty lame overall, but the wrestling was fine. And pretty easy to watch 2 hours.
Yeah, I think they've got like a few things going. It's still very much anchored by your main event story, but I think you're starting to see some things pop up, like what they're doing with Apollo Crews. Nakamura feels fresh. They've got little parts on SmackDown. It's kind of just getting those stories more kind of fleshed out, I think, is where things are going. Like, you've got something with Sami Zayn. It's like you've got all these little things. It's just kind of growing them into being something greater on this show. I have more faith in this SmackDown show than I do Raw most weeks.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. At this point, let's make some time for your phone calls. So if you're in the Zoom chat room joining us live, just raise your hand out there and I will get to your calls. But first, let's go to the forum, John.
Okay, let's check out what everyone had to say about tonight's episode of SmackDown. The forum gave this show a 7 out of 10. A very high number for SmackDown.
That's pretty good for SmackDown for a WWE show. Let's start the phone calls off first with Kevin. Kevin, please unmute yourself. You're on the air.
Hello, all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Kevin.
I think it's my first time that I've been able to do that. I enjoyed your best and your worst. Totally understand why you couldn't get into likely and unlikely, but I just thought I would ask a quick one. Maybe I missed the AEW podcast, but likely or unlikely, one of the Jackson brothers goes on a singles run and battles Omega at some point this year for the AEW title.
You mean like a one-off match or a sustained singles run?
Sustained.
I'll say unlikely.
Man, honestly, it depends on how much more story they have left to tell. And, with the current dynamic of the Bucks being baby faces and Kenny being a heel, like this might be one of those only opportunities you might be able to tell that story. So I'll go with the likely. Why not?
Okay. Anyway, Happy New Year. You've got a whole great show tonight. Enjoyed Roman and Pearce. It was really well done. And yeah, I agree with you on the finishes. But I'll get off because there's tons of hands up.
All right. Thanks a lot for the call, Kevin. We appreciate it.
And thank you for fulfilling our likely unlikely for the year. That's
it. We'll seal that away.
Yep. Let's go up next to Hansi. Hansi, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on? I should clarify what happened before you guys got here. Was on an accident. I came in, right, and I unmuted on accident, and I go, are these guys here? And then I go, oh, you guys can hear me. And then the conversation broke out where we're like, hey, someone go do stand up for a bit before they get here. And then I just said, hey, how about just read Val Venus's tweets? And you know what I mean? And then that's how it all started. I didn't want you guys to think that I was like taking over or something like that. You know what I mean? I just had to explain that quickly.
No, not at all.
Look at Hansi trying to extinguish his heat that he's gaining amongst all the listeners, trying to play damage control here.
Yeah, it's all Brian's fault. But yeah, every Friday, of course, on Rewind-A-SmackDown, people jump into the chat room here. It's always a party, and apparently quite the pre-show that we usually miss out on.
Okay,
pre-show stand-up.
about the SmackDown, I did expect Kevin Owens to be the guy, like, you know what I mean, and I don't mind that, but the thing is like he takes so much beating, right? And it's like, do you think they would give us a month of like his title reign and Roman Reigns wins it back? Because like the thing is like he keeps getting destroyed and he doesn't get any retribution. Like he hasn't even gotten like a major beatdown on Roman. That's one thing. And then the other thing.
So Hansi, today I think would have been considered, like from their perspective, a win for Kevin Owens, like him getting the upper hand on Roman Reigns. Physically, you're right. Like there's a bit of a disparity, at least, in terms of match results. I personally don't see Roman like losing to him on route to WrestleMania. I don't think Roman will lose the belt. I don't really see the point of that. I think Owens is really here to fulfill a bunch of main events to heat Roman Reigns up for WrestleMania.
No, that's a good point. And I'll just leave with this one because I know other people want to get through. I do like the little seed that they're planning with, and I don't know how far they're going to go with this, but I do like that Apollo is kind of leaning with Roman Reigns, because I also think that I'm thinking post-Mania, right? Where like if like Apollo and and Big E still continue feuding, and they showed Paul Heyman kind of giving words of wisdom to Apollo on Talking Smack. I really do think that if like Apollo has Roman Reigns' influence and he does drop the belt to Apollo, that would be a good segue for Big E to kind of shift his gear to Roman Reigns if they are forming an alliance and Apollo is turning heel on him. Because I think ultimately, at least for SummerSlam, I know Mania, we might not get Big E, it's Bryan, but I do think by SummerSlam, they need to have Big E kind of step up to Roman Reigns, in my personal opinion. And I'll leave you guys with that. And thank you for taking my call as usual.
Thank you, Hansi. Yeah, I certainly look at things like Big E. I'm really glad, like there was, the what was it? The New Year's Day episode of SmackDown. I thought they did that so well with the title switch, and I'm glad they're not kind of just going to Big E quickly and instead wait for him to have something more significant, like down the road post Mania. I think that he's someone you really want to get that right the first time he goes for that championship, but you can see he's clearly being groomed for something greater.
Hansi's suggestion is interesting, because if in fact, it's Cruz taking the belt off of Big E so Big E can go for Reigns, the timing doesn't really, play to that as well, because if they're doing this already right now, you would have to think Big E would be doing the chase far earlier. Like, could it be Big E that they had pegged for the WrestleMania?
I don't see him dropping the title next week. I really don't see them doing that. I see him having a bit of a run with this title. To me, yeah, I would be holding off till Big E until later. But like, they haven't announced him for the Rumble yet. But when he is, I mean, he will be some people's pick, I'm sure.
Okay, let's go up next to the big Strabowski himself. We got a Brian. What's going on?
Doing well, guys. Another great show from you two. SmackDown, I thought, was a little worse than last week. I agree about the finishes. I did think it was strong character-wise, more than wrestling-wise, outside of Cesaro and Bryan, which I thought was a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm.
That monkey flip spot looked awkward and painful, but otherwise, it's great to see these guys get the time to do it, what they do best. And the Reign stuff remains strong as usual. I did want to bring two things to the attention of everyone listening. On the WWE Network, they released a Best of Luke Harper, which I thought was very nice. 9 matches, 3.5 hours, and a bunch of people talking about him. Starts with Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins talking about him. Leads right into that Shield Wyatt family match from Elimination Chamber.
Is it all main roster matches that he was involved in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no NXT.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to raise attention, under the NXT umbrella between NXT here and in the UK, there are 4 people with the last name Carter now. You had,
You're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane. You started with Caden Carter, I think, but then you had Oliver Carter and Ben Carter in the UK. Ben Carter's debut I thought was amazing, if you can stand to watch a Jordan Devlin match. And then you just had the Rascals debut with Zachary Wentz becoming Nash Carter. So it's a race to the main roster to see who can keep the Carter name.
Or could they all get together as the Carter 4?
Ooh, yeah, the Carter family.
Wow, that's very un-WWE like, given their obsession at certain points to distinguish names that brought us Gregory Helms, among many others.
Garrison Cade.
Yes.
It does. Well, like, sorry to cut you off. It does suggest to me that, like, I think there's a much more hands-off approach to, like, managing people's names on the NXT brands as opposed to the main roster brands. The moment all 4 of them, if that ever happens, get onto the main roster, you can guarantee at least half of them will be losing their names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also Dez as Wes Lee, he could come in as when he gets to the main roster as Keith Lee's cousin from elsewhere. So that's all I got. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Brian.
Alrighty.
Observations.
Let's go to the board right now for some feedback before we end off with one more call, John.
Okay. We'll go to Paul from New Jersey. Feels like Nakamura has been wasting away for the last few years, so this renewed push is great to see. I love that guys like Adam Pearce, Charles Robinson, and Jey Uso have important roles on the show. Those might not be the guys you think about at first, but they all bring something to the overall product. Dominik had a very rough showing on commentary, but you know who didn't? That would be 2-time John Pollock Award winner Billy Kay. It was the Riot sisters who were responsible for breaking up the Iconics, but I suppose WWE wants us to forget that. An obstacle course seems... That's right. They lost their match to the Riot Squad, and that caused the breakup. An obstacle course seems like the kind of segment that could end up as a Worst of the Year nominee, but I have faith in Bayley pulling this off. Feels like Raw and SmackDown are produced by 2 different companies right now. An 8 out of 10. Where does that weird Angelo Dawkins Simpsons joke rank on WWE pop culture?
Well, I think seeing the success of this Cardi B thing, I think it truly is them shooting their shot and trying to get that attention. I don't know.
What's a hot new series? The Simpsons.
Yeah. I mean, well, maybe it's their only chance. Like, I don't see South Park acknowledging them. I don't know. I haven't watched a new Simpsons episode in like probably 15 years. Actually, since the last time you and I had to review one.
Since the Macarena came out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know where that joke came from. You're right. It just added to the list. Okay, we got a Muggin who says everything on SmackDown had purpose fueling it. Roman Reigns being presented as an unstoppable string-pulling force of nature. Hearing Shinsuke Nakamura's old theme again made me smile. Bryan continues to be selfless by giving Cesaro a nice boost in the match of the night. Dominik was rough on commentary. Billy Kay is hilarious. Apollo Crews has a new edge to him and it could work wonders for him. The Bayley talk show segment was solid. Not too keen about having an obstacle course to further their feud, but I'm sure it'll be a showcase for Bianca's athleticism. One more call to end the show, and we go, of course, to New Jersey. This man, if he's awake,
50-50
will join
shot
us.
of that.
Hello.
Good morning, muchachos.
Hey, speaking of shots, am I correct, Brandon, in that you have yours scheduled?
For I'm here.
You have your vaccination scheduled. You said that on the.
Oh
on the
yeah. February is looking like
Wow, that's great. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm if my lap triples, then you know what happens.
I think it'll fix you. I mean, that would be the most disappointing of all if it took away that personality.
It makes me a normal person.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
No,
we're all
it'll
in
make you
trouble.
super eloquent and just like completely different. Not that you aren't right now.
God,
Do you want to take us through our weekly segment here on the show called This Week in Tito?
Oh my god!
Wait, did you see the Lisa Kudrow tweet?
No.
No,
Oh
it was
god, yeah, I did. What an idiot! What a buffoon! I watched that Lisa Kudrow thing. I watched that little comedy bit. He's so like, is he just playing a character or what? Like, you'd hope, right?
I mean, you hope, but I don't think so. I think that's Tito Ortiz, man.
So people are asking what happened. So basically, Tito, like, okay, so there's this like show that basically is kind of like talking about 2020 being the worst year. And within it kind of does parodies of like, you know, current events. So Lisa Kudrow basically plays sort of like a Republican politician who's downplaying the coronavirus. And so she said something very kind of like sarcastic about like COVID not existing and whatever. So somebody puts this clip up, and Tito Ortiz, genius that he is, thinks it's a legitimate clip and uses it to kind of echo whatever like thoughts Lisa Kudrow was saying in character, but as a real thing. So has the man ever like turned on NBC on a Thursday in his entire life? I guess not, right? Or like seen like, what is it? What's that? What's a Lisa Kudrow film? Anyway. I'm sure you can name one. I guess he hasn't seen it. Lucky Numbers. There you go.
He missed that episode of Friends when Tank Abbott was on. The other Huntington Beach bad boy. Brandon, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just listening to your banter about that idiot Tito Ortiz. But yeah, he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal Holyfield. He thinks what happened is we're stage actors in the Capitol. Oh boy! In all seriousness, I can't believe you think I'm more annoying than Matt Riddle, John.
I said you were maybe the template. You are what he should be shooting for. I'm not saying he's reaching your levels.
Did you own a trucker hat?
No. I had self-respect.
Sadly, I owned a couple. I had a thin flannel too back in the day too. I had my own vibe. I didn't fit into everybody in my hood in my back in the day. So
you went from Ashton Kutcher to Kelvin Gastelum.
That's right.
Oh, you got a legit laugh out of him there.
Oh man, yeah. It was a contrast in styles back in those days, man. But in all seriousness, I have one question.
You weren't being serious?
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed in the way AEW is using Proud and Powerful. Like, remember when they first signed them and they were like the hottest tag team, and culturally for Puerto Ricans, they were using like references like Hector Lavoy and other types of stuff that personally in my life and other Puerto Ricans, like I popped to that stuff. And all of a sudden I know they had a bad year, like losing their stepfather and other stuff like that. And they couldn't really, I don't know what happened. Like, what do you think is the future for those guys in AEW? Like, are they going to start using them properly? Are they going to get a proper push? I know they got a big match next week with the rest of the Inner Circle. Like, what do you guys think is in the cards for them?
Yeah,
I'm not too concerned about them. I mean, they are in the main group. I mean, it's such a deep, forget deep roster. It's a very deep tag division as well. So they're on regularly. I see what you mean. Like they're not like the focus tag team, but I would say like they're right in that mix. That I mean, if you want to give them some kind of serious run, I think they're right there. I guess you're just looking at like screen time. I think personally, like Santana had that awesome promo last year when he was setting up the Moxley feud. I mean, that guy to me has a future as a single star as well. I think he's a great promo. I would like to see him get more promo time this year. I think that would be something to look for.
Personally, I think like they're pretty much on the cusp of being baby faces, and if it wasn't for the association with the Inner Circle, like they're pretty much already there. Like, how can anybody boo somebody like Santana after like knowing the story that this man's lived through? Like this guy, to me, like they're so incredibly likable that you can turn them babyface at any second and make them your top babyface tag team. But right now, that spot is going to the Bucks, so there's really not much room for them right now. And also, the Inner Circle is still really hot, and I think it's way too soon to break any of the members up. But I can definitely see that in the future. And once that happens, like I think you can go to the top with them as a babyface tag team.
I mean, you can also book Bad Bunny with them, right?
Huh?
Bad Bunny, the Puerto Rican artist, biggest artist on the planet. Never heard of him? He does the Booker T song.
Oh yes, that's how I know him. Yeah, what do you think of that song?
It's great, but I'm just saying, like, instead of you booking Snoop Dogg, you can book guys like that on AEW who are bigger pro wrestling fans who know this shit. I don't get it. I don't know. I think AEW is missing the boat with music also. And one more thing, my worst gear, gotta be worst gear of the year. It's gotta be Tucker with the pants, right?
Oh yeah, his makeover.
Tucker's
It was a rough year for Tucker.
Remember when Tucker and Otis broke up, and then Tucker came back as a single star on Main Event?
No one remembers. That's the unfortunate part.
Barely.
The most forgettable turn that happened this year. I feel very bad for Tucker. He got completely just bulldozed by that whole set of circumstances.
All right, that's all I got. I love you guys. I'm off all week, so I'm gonna be around.
Oh,
right
be
on.
forewarned, everyone.
See you, Brandon. Bye-bye. All right, one more call. Wait. I can't get to this guy's call. He's raised his hand, but he has no mic. So sorry, Mo, we can't get to you. You have no microphone.
Oh, man.
So that wraps it up.
Quickly, before we go out of here, I said I'd read the card for a Hard to Kill Saturday. This is what we've got. Rich Swann, Chris Sabin, and Moose against Omega and the Good Brothers. Manic defends the X Division title against Rohit Raju and Chris Bay. Deonna Purrazzo against Taya Valkyrie for the Knockouts Championship. Eric Young, Diener, and Joe Doring versus Cousin Jake, Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino in an old school rules 6-man tag. Eddie Edwards versus Sami Callihan, Barbed Wire Massacre. Rosemary and Crazy Steve against Tennille Dashwood and Caleb. Havoc and Nevaeh versus Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. That's for the finals of the Knockouts Tag Title Tournament. The Karate Man versus Ethan Page on this show as well. And then the pre-show, Josh Alexander versus Brian Myers.
Yeah, that'll probably be a cinematic match, right? Karate Man and Ethan Page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you watching the show?
I won't watch it live. I'll probably watch, like, pick and choose what people recommend after the fact. I'll probably check out the 6-man in the main event. I'll check out Deonna Purrazzo versus Taya Valkyrie. Maybe this Karate Man Ethan Page shenanigan.
Yeah, it's an interesting show. I would say, like, some good stuff on here. I think the matches that you mentioned, I think, like, the top two I'm very interested in, and we'll see. Like, the undercard, it's always Impact has to, they have the complete empty studio, which can be tough, and they're not running. This is a 9-match show, so you're looking at 3 hours or so. It can be a long time in that setting. So hopefully they have a good show on Saturday. I think that this is one that will have more interest than a typical Impact pay-per-view, and will be most noteworthy if there's any angle shot at the end of the night or whatever is coming out of the show.
You would think that this thing with Impact and AEW would extend beyond just Hard to Kill, so it would have to continue with something. Do we see more crossover between the two, or what? I mean, yeah. I mean, I think they'll probably build to, like, Shelley coming back at some point and doing that match properly too. I have to think. So perhaps.
Yeah, I would say the biggest things you could do would be, an appearance by the Young Bucks or even Moxley attacking Omega. If you could do something like that where it's, bleeds into AEW's stories coming out of this as well, that would be some big moment to end the show with.
Yeah. And of course, everybody will have a post show up on postwrestling.com from Up Next with Davey Portman, Andrew Thompson, and Nate Milton. You'll be able to listen to that both on the Up Next feed and the Post Wrestling feed. And you could probably watch the show along with Davey at twitch.tv/upnext as well.
Yeah, Davey lives now on Twitch. So anytime you log on to the Up Next Twitch stream, Davey is probably there to hang out with. So watch Hard to Kill with him and then listen to the post show. That'll all be coming out Saturday. Way is back on Sunday with the debut of Wonderful with Way and WH. So look forward to that. You'll be reviewing the first 2 episodes?
The first 2 episodes are out, so we'll be talking about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, have a great weekend. Monday, Way and I will be back with Rewind a Raw, and we'll also be joined Monday by Mike Bond, who is in Fight Island as we speak. He will be joining us.
You're going to be interviewing him from Abu Dhabi. Wow.
Yeah, he's gonna join me on Monday, so he'll tell us all about being there, the whole process, because he had to go to Vegas and then fly over to Abu Dhabi, so he had to go through all the testing protocol, and this is his first time going over there. So the first card is Saturday afternoon. That's the card airing on ABC, and then they've got a card next Wednesday morning, dude. It's going to be going head to head with the inauguration. The undercard starts at 9 a.m. and then the main card's at noon on Wednesday on ESPN. I don't think you could think of a worse time to run a card, but they're going to next Wednesday.
What time do you think the main event will go on?
The Wednesday show?
Yeah. Or sorry, sorry, I'm thinking about the Connor fight on Saturday.
Oh, next weekend. That's a regular time. So Connor and Khabib will probably, or sorry, Connor and Poirier will probably fight just after midnight Eastern.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, that's next Saturday's big card. So there you go, everybody. All of that can be found postwrestling.com, and we'll speak with you later on this weekend.